Some people say beans are boring, but I think they just don't know how to cook them properly. So here are 8 ways to turn a simple can of beans into something truly delicious.
Woo.
The first way we're going to be improving the humble bean is to roast them until beautifully crunchy, and I'm going to be using cannellini beans here, but you can use any variety that you want. And we'll start by drying them in some kitchen roll or in a tea towel. Then get them into a bowl, or at least try to, and then we're going to drizzle over some olive oil and season them with salt, pepper and some zaatar.
So we're going to use zaatar, which is a really nice herb and spice mix. It's got oregano and marjoram in, which adds a nice woody floral note. And then it's got some sumac, which is sort of acidic and tangy. And then some toasted sesame for that really nutty flavour. It's going to go great on these beans.
Give them a good toss to get them coated in this spice and herb mix. And then to get them extra crunchy, we're going to add some cornflour or any starch of your choice. Mix them around to get them coated, and then we're going to pour them out onto a baking tray and spread them out evenly. Roast them at 200 degrees for 15 minutes, then give them a good stir, and then we're going to roast them for another 10 to 15 minutes until they're super crispy. They will continue to crisp up once they cool. These are great on top of a soup for a bit of added crunch, or in a salad, or even with some roasted vegetables.
Super crispy. Woo!
The next recipe is a tasty mixed bean and avocado salad. It's super quick and simple, and it's one of my favourites to eat in the summer, either as a lunch or as a snack. So to our 5-bean salad, which appears to have sweet corn in it as well, we're going to add some fresh coriander, and then we're going to prepare 1 avocado. The safest way to do this is to cut around the stone of the avocado, and it should just twist open. You can then cut into the stone and pick up the avocado and just twist it out nice and easily. Then with a butter knife, we're going to do a little crisscross pattern into the avocado, not using your kitchen knife here, in case it slices through and gets your hand. And then you should get nice little cubes when you scoop it out. Then for some fresh, zesty flavour, we're going to add the juice of 1 lime. For some lovely smoky flavour and spice, we're going to add a good teaspoon of chipotle paste, followed by these jarred roast peppers, which are really lovely. I like to use these in the winter, and then in the summer I'd usually just use some fresh peppers. Season your salad with salt and pepper, and then we're going to add a good glug of extra virgin olive oil, then just mix it up and you are good to go. I love to enjoy this on its own or with some flatbread or some tortilla chips. It's just lovely, fresh, creamy and slightly spicy, a really delicious lunch or snack. For recipe 3, we're going to be marinating some beans, and this is probably the quickest and simplest way to boost the flavour of a simple can of white beans. This is something I'll do as soon as I get my beans, as I want them to marinate for a good 24 hours. So start by draining and rinsing your beans, and then we're going to add some dried oregano and some freshly cut parsley. Then for acidity, I'm going to add some red wine vinegar. You could use white wine vinegar, or some lemon juice would also work. Then we're going to add a good glug of extra virgin olive oil. We'll then add half a red onion or shallot, finely chopped, and if you don't like raw onion, then feel free to leave this out, although in the marinating process, the vinegar and the salt will start to sort of break down the onion and get rid of that raw flavour, so don't worry too much. Then just give your jar a good shake, and you can let it marinate for at least 12 hours, but ideally 24, and then you can use them in salads, over roast vegetables, and that's just a really nice quick way to enhance your beans.
Such an easy way of elevating a simple can of beans.
Next up is another quick one. This is an oil-free Caesar salad dressing using white beans to make it lovely and creamy. This one's incredibly easy. Just blend the beans with some water, 1 small garlic clove, a little bit of mustard, the juice of a lemon, and then some nutritional yeast for a nice bit of cheesy tang. Then we're going to add some capers. Anchovies are typically used in Caesar salad dressing, but since we're keeping this plant-based, we're going to use some capers, which add a nice sort of salty, pickled flavour. I'm also adding a little squeeze of agave or any sugar to balance the acidity, and season it with salt and pepper, and you're good to go. Blend until perfectly smooth, and you've got a quick oil-free dressing for your salad. I've got a nice crispy tofu salad here, which is going to go perfectly on. This one is another one of my favourite quick lunches or snacks. It's a smashed butter bean and sun-dried tomato bruschetta. And it starts with some finely chopped rosemary and thyme, then some sliced sun-dried tomatoes, which personally I love. They have a sort of chewy texture to them, which a lot of vegan foods don't have. Then simply drain and rinse a can of white beans, add them to a bowl with some lemon zest, the juice of the lemon, salt and pepper, and a good glug of extra virgin olive oil. Get in there with a fork and give them a good crushing. If you're making this for a few people, you could use a potato masher or even a food processor to make it a bit easier. Then add in your herbs and your sun-dried tomatoes and mix to combine. For me, the ultimate bread for bruschetta is focaccia. It was the first bread I learned to make and it is so easy, so I'd definitely recommend giving focaccia a go if you've never made it. It's also incredibly crispy, so it holds up to the butter beans. You could of course use any bread that you've got, and if it's a little bit stale then I would suggest toasting it, and then just load it up with the smashed butter beans. I'm going to serve mine with a little rocket and balsamic glaze, and there you have a delicious lunch or snack. The smashed butter beans are very versatile. You could add some tahini if you wanted a more like hummus flavour, or you could add some olives, some different herbs. You can go in any direction that you like really. Next up on these simple but delicious ways to use a can of beans is this super quick lemony golden chickpea soup, and it starts with some finely grated ginger. To that add some turmeric for the golden colour and curry powder to season. Let that sizzle for about a minute, and then we're going to add half a can of chickpeas and just crush it into a puree. Then add some vegetable stock and the other half of the can of chickpeas. Bring to a simmer, and then we're going to add some creamed coconut. This comes in a sort of chalky solid block, and it's a lot thicker than coconut milk and almost more fibrous, which adds a nice body to what you're cooking. To make this soup really zing, we're going to add lemon zest and juice. Then since we're not cooking this for very long, to add some umami flavour, which you might get from like caramelizing vegetables, we're going to add some tamari and also a good grating of black pepper. Then add a couple handfuls of spinach and let that wilt, followed by a good handful of fresh coriander if you like it, or you could add some chives or parsley if you don't. Serve it up with some yogurt and some extra coriander. This is a really speedy soup, probably only beaten by something like a miso soup, and it's just got so much flavour, a lovely indulgent creamy texture, and it's got lots of good nutrients in there. Now we're going to go from India to Mexico with some refried beans. I've had a lot in the past that are often very bland, so we're going to kick this recipe off with a good couple teaspoons of cumin seeds. Then we'll add some diced onion and we're going to season it with salt and fry until it starts to caramelize. Add in some dried oregano and some ground cumin. I love using lots of cumin in refried beans for its really earthy, fragrant flavour. Then a nice dollop of tomato puree, and we're just going to cook this out for about a minute until it releases its natural sweetness. Classically pinto beans are used, but I'm going to be using some borlotti beans, which also have a similar sort of creamy texture. So that the refried beans aren't too thick, we're going to add a little bit of vegetable stock, let it simmer for a minute or two, and then we're going to get in there and crush them with a potato masher until roughly pureed. I like to leave a few of the beans sort of slightly intact, and then I added a little bit of vegetable stock just to loosen it up a little bit more. Then add the juice of one lime, not the whole thing. I always end up accidentally dropping in the lemon or lime whenever I'm cooking. Maybe that's just me. But then we're going to also add a good handful of fresh coriander. This is the perfect dish on its own with some tortillas, or serve it with your fajitas. Maybe inside a quesadilla would be really nice. Lots of options for these refried beans.
So good. Creamy, really Moorish, fragrant with cumin, and then you get a nice zing from that fresh coriander and lime juice.
The final recipe is these black bean cookies, and this was a bit of an experiment, but it did make quite a tasty little snack. Start by blending the black beans with coconut oil, vanilla essence, maple syrup, until creamy and mostly lump-free. Then into a medium bowl, we're going to add oat flour, baking powder and baking soda, and some cocoa powder, and then just whisk until combined. I'm also going to add some dark chocolate for some extra indulgence. So I ended up making these a second time at my girlfriend's house as I adjusted the recipe. I did also add 2 flax eggs, and the details will be in the recipe in the description. After freezing the cookie mix for 30 minutes to let it firm up, you can place heaped tablespoons onto a tray and bake for 10 to 12 minutes or until the top of the cookie looks dry. I'd probably have to call these cookie muffins as they have a sort of chocolatey muffin cake almost like texture. Quite a nice snack, but maybe not quite a cookie. So there are 8 ways that you can enhance the simple can of beans. Hopefully that's given you some inspiration, and if you did enjoy the video, be sure to click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in a new video very soon. Bye bye.